Welcome to another inspiring conversation with an amazing leader. I'm Marc Pitman, the author of, I'm getting, patting you on the back, The Surprising Gift of Doubt, which is out today. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. All those things instead of just refreshing Amazon, although I'll admit I've done that today, my wife suggested that I talk to people that I admire and appreciate and that inspire me every hour on the hour. So I've been doing that for the last 2 days. And Pamela Slim, I am so glad that you said yes. Thank you for joining me today on this happy day for an author.
Well, happy book birthday, and thanks for inviting me. It's my tremendous joy to join you today. I'm so excited for you and for the world, for the readers of your book.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that, because to me, that's what was so happy this morning when I woke up. I was up around midnight to 1:30, and I finally at 1:30 decided, all right, let me just see if Amazon has it live yet. And of course, no, because I'm on East Coast and they're in Seattle. So, but it was one of those, when it happened, it was just sort of like, yes. Now people get to be helped, which I love. For those of you watching on Amazon Live, some of Pamela's books are down here, Body of Work being the most recent. And I would love to know what you've seen. You've worked with leaders through a number of different organizational relationships. So how have you seen them deal with doubt well? What are some of the things that they do that when they just don't have it figured out, how do they do it well as opposed to being toxic?
Wow. One thing is just to say, you know what? I don't know. To be able in a meeting to say, like, how revolutionary is it, instead of tap dancing around and trying to pretend or deflect to somebody else and pretend, just to say, wow, that's a really great question. I don't know. Let me find out. I think just modeling that in a day-to-day basis when you don't know answers to things can be one really important thing. And I think the other is channeling what I love about probably a sister book to yours, which is Mindset by Carol Dweck, which is just to have that good growth mindset as a foundation for a culture where you can just always be thinking from a growth mindset and be embracing possibility and laughing at mistakes. It's one of the biggest things I think in the healthiest culture that I ever worked in, which interestingly was at Barclays Global Investors, which was a large investment management firm. But my team was just spectacular. I had an amazing director and VP, and we laughed so much. We also did a lot of really important work, but we spent so much time talking and laughing and just being curious and interested. And to me, those are the kinds of characteristics that can just loosen things up to where you can look at your work objectively and not take it so seriously.
Well, I love the sincere curiosity and being interested in other people's stuff. That I think there are a lot of keys in that. How is it perceived or received by the global or the big company to have a team that thoroughly enjoyed each other so much? Was that seen as odd?
Well, we called it a subculture, and I saw that in the first 10 years of my consulting business. I worked in large companies, a lot of tech companies in Silicon Valley. And so what you see there for folks that might work in such large companies or nonprofits for that matter, right? Any kind of organization, is you can have subcultures within an overall corporate culture. So I know we were a fun place for people to visit, maybe if they were coming from the trading floor or the legal department or some other places where they wanted a little bit more fun and ease. But it was an example, I think, for our work, because we, in that case, were HR and we actually serve the rest of the company, that we would be in really serious conversations, really strategic conversations. But it was within our own team dynamic where the way we looked at and analyzed problems was really important. And then, I actually have my 5 VIA character strengths just written on a little card right here as I'm writing my book: love, fairness, humor, creativity, and zest. So I know I'm driven by those values. So whenever that's present for me, they're components of a healthy work culture, which for somebody else that might have some different core values, they might be looking for some other things.
That's true. That might not be something that they'd want to gravitate to. I think it's very freeing to think of a subculture, because we have a lot of middle managers that feel stuck and not being able to do the things that they know are right or sense are right. And so giving them the permission to experiment with creating a subculture could be really freeing. What was on that card? Not the words, but you said via?
The VIA character strengths. Have you seen that?
No.
It comes from the field of positive psychology. So it's
Okay.
just look up VIA character strengths, and they are 24 character strengths that have been sourced. The academic model is across cultures across the world that are in the field of positive psychology seen as positive character strengths or values, just a different way to me of saying values. So you can take a free assessment that's on your site, and I use it a lot in work with clients and organizations when you're thinking about the kinds of characteristics to notice that you want to bring into your work. For in the entrepreneur world that I work in a lot, I know that the more I can choose projects that have those characteristics, the more that I can select clients that share those same kinds of values. We can do better work. And the same thing works in teams. Kind of like any assessment or lens that you look at, it's helpful to have people, I think, that look at things from a different perspective and different character strengths. And one of the nice thing about that model is they're all positive attributes. So it's not like one is better than the other, or, there's a bad one.
Oh, you chose the bad one. Yeah, that's great. Well, and at Quadrant 3, one of the parts of Quadrant 3 leadership is values. So I love I love character strengths. I think I'm glad for the book that I have. I'm also glad for the phrasing I'm learning to expand that vocabulary instead of values, character strengths. I think that's really cool. Nice. Yeah. Now you said that you have a new book coming out, and I've seen glimmers of it. When is it coming out? What are you writing?
So yes, my next book will come out on October 12th, as long as I finish writing it this week. I'm working and publishing
some time.
Yeah. No worries. But I'm publishing with McGraw-Hill, which I'm real excited about. And I really see it as a trilogy. It's funny. I didn't necessarily look at it that way until I've written the two books that I have. But my first book, Escape from Cubicle Nation, was really for people who were in corporate, who found that they really wanted to work for themselves. Mm-hmm. And it just gives you the path in order to do that, to become a functional entrepreneur. Body of work is really then, once you're there, to be zeroing in on the kind of work that is really meaningful to you and also has a big impact in the world. And this next book is called The Widest Net. And the subtitle, I have to look at it because I'm just working on it, but it's Unlock Untapped Markets and Discover New Customers Right in Front of You. That's about finding an audience for your work. So it's a method I've actually used for decades in different ways of building, especially inclusive communities. And I've been using it in particular at our learning lab in downtown Mesa, and then also with my clients to really great results. So I'm super excited to bring it out into the world.
That is really, really cool. And I love that you can see a through line going through them. That's really, I should probably do it this way, since as you were saying them, I was moving that way on the screen. Tell people a little bit about the work that you're doing there in Mesa at the lab.
Yeah, so we have what's called the Main Street Learning Lab. My husband and I co-founded it about 5 years ago. And it came out of the roots of noticing, my husband is Navajo, so he was a Navajo business owner for many years. He ran a heavy equipment construction business for many decades. And since he had a semi-retirement, now he does traditional wellness and healing. Mm-hmm. And we just noticed in mainstream business events that we would go to, and I go to them like you do across the country, that we never saw Native American business presenters, in particular, having an eye toward who would be a business presenter at a business conference that happened to also be Native American, in addition to other folks, generally folks of color, folks who were otherwise marginalized. And so it made us think, and I did some research about it when I did a 23-city tour around the United States. And I had asked in all 23 cities, how many people have ever seen a Native American business presenter at a business conference? And only 7 had, and 4 of them were in Vancouver, Canada. So we were like, the problem is not that there are not amazing experts, it's that there's no visibility. And really for us, it's a very personal thing for our kids, for our extended niece and nephew network, and then for other community members. And so we created a space that by day houses our businesses, I happen to be at home now, but normally non-COVID times we're down there. And then the evenings and weekends, we have all kinds of events that are really led by and for leaders of color within our community. So we've had thousands of people that have gone through with so many different interesting events. And it's just been a wonderfully connected kind of experience. And it's connected us to a lot of other initiatives that are happening downtown, because we have a lot of growth and development that's happening right now on Main Street.
That is so exciting. What a great, I used to live in rural Maine, and the downtown collaborative work that was going on down there was inspiring. It was fun to be part of for a period of that. And what important work. That's great, because I don't think I've seen many Native American speakers. And part of the process of doing this book too, I had the diversity, hired people to just do a diversity read, just saying, is this as accessible to as many people as I think it is? I've got my blind spots, and I want to acknowledge that. And one of the people that was really, really helpful was with the Lumbee Nation in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. Well, in what was called North Carolina. And she actually was taking me through some things. And she said, if you were to put this in there, that would really speak to the indigenous people, or to the Native American smoke signals. If I had movie references from this movie, Smoke Signals.
Right.
And I couldn't with good conscience at all. There was no way that I had any, I would have watched it just to include it, and that didn't seem authentic. So I still have it on my Apple. I purchased it on Apple so I can watch it. But
it's a fantastic movie. You will love it. But yes,
we're can't wait to see all the memes now too, because I guess there are a lot of memes that come up from it. So that's good. Very cool. What, as you've been working with leaders going through the pandemic and even leaving, they must have been working with doubt too, as you've been helping people move out of corporate that wanted to move out of corporate. Nothing wrong with corporate, but some people want out. What are some of the signposts along the way that have helped them kind of find their footing in moving through uncertainty? Because I don't think we get into certainty ever. Was it the character strengths that you were talking about, or were there other things that you found really helpful for people?
No, I think for folks that I work with who are I don't do as much early stage entrepreneurship anymore. I tend to work a little bit more in the scaling stage, but for people who have made big transitions, or in some cases make big investments, certainly downtown, some of the friends and clients downtown had recently moved into a new space, or opened. One of our clients and partners just opened a gym in January of last year. So you can imagine he was incubating a lot of his work in our learning lab, and then opened the space. And so it's the perfect time for your book to come out, because everybody has lived through some element of that. A couple of things that I notice in particular. So one really is, when you do have a good focus on mission and purpose, and you're clear about how that specifically relates to the people who you're working with, who your ideal customers are. It's not, I laugh sometimes, and especially in the world of the internet entrepreneurs and so forth, where I'm like, what's your mission? And they're like, to work 4 hours a week and make $1 million. And I'm like, that's not really a business mission. That's fantastic as a goal for a business owner. But where you are connected, for example, to things like I love, which is just having business owners be more successful and get more customers and grow the economy through small businesses, then when you look at the problem and your mission that way, then you can get creative. So you could say things like, I just opened a big physical gym. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? But wait, if the main purpose is to get people healthy and well, then what are ways that I could do that without a physical building? And then you begin to think of, okay, well, maybe I could do virtual training, and maybe I could do things outside, and really getting underneath the root of why actually you're in business, and then not just being stuck to say that this is the only way that I can do it. I think that's been something that's really helpful. So
many people were dead in the water, especially salespeople and nonprofit fundraisers, because they were told face-to-face was what you had to do to close the deal. And all of a sudden they became telephone people. And the people that embraced that found out donors and were very generous, and people were very willing to still invest in services. But the people that didn't were dead in the water. And what you said too, that mission, the way you shape mission or express it, the gym isn't trying to figure out how to survive, although they are, but it's not like So much of what I've seen businesses do, it seems like a cash grab or a cash flow panic sort of thing. The way you described it anchors it something into how do we serve people who are going through trying times. And is that an accurate reflection?
It's really true, and it's really how can we serve our customers. So sometimes it's one
Even
and the
better.
same,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But so it's whoever it is that is your ideal customer. And I often use the definition from Susan Beyer. I don't know if you know Susan, but she's a dear colleague of mine here in the Phoenix area, and she's an attitudinal segmentation researcher. So a lot of the way she does her customer profiles are not on just demographic information. Like I only work with, white men with cute bow ties and glasses that have beards. but
you meant white, cute men with bow ties, right? Not men with cute bow ties. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, exactly. That's what I meant to say. But, that demographic information is not going to tell me anything when I'm trying to pivot. It's, I want to work with a certain kind of business owner that might view purpose as a core element to what they do. And therefore, if I'm really thinking about my customers that way and the specific problems that I want to help them solve, it opens you up with your path of curiosity. There we go with curiosity again, right? Where instead of you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to get clients? You're like, how could I get clients? If one of the things I do is help people deal with unpredictable cash flow. Like, what are ways that I could do that? What could be interesting ways that we could address it? And that's where you begin to lean more into possibility. And, all the companies where workers were no longer working in physical buildings. I mean, I was laughing being for 30 years, pretty much working with companies to try on the human side of business, where I heard so many arguments of like, we could never do it. We couldn't function with remote workers. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, your entire workforce is no longer in a physical location.
Yeah. Entire healthcare practices. Oh, we can't do it because of HIPAA. All of a sudden, boom, we've done it. We figured it all out.
I mean, it's necessity happening. So that kind of thing, where you have curiosity about this, in some cases, of course, you can have a preference of meeting in person. I love people. I love the physical human gathering, and I can't wait till it's safe to do that. But it does open that opportunity for us to be successful. And I saw it's so interesting in the learning lab. We often say we walk out, we're right in the middle of Main Street, right in exactly the middle of the district. And so it was just so interesting to tune in and to notice the difference between brick and mortar businesses who all were equally impacted by just people not being able to physically visit. But there were so many interesting pivots of things that I saw, like different restaurant owners do. Some all of a sudden creatively would package up groceries with toilet paper when we knew we had to run on toilet paper because they had a certain access to be getting supplies, and they were just so creative for ways that they could
a local
stay
beer
employed,
store had gloves, and in the early part of the pandemic I was all about wearing the gloves because we didn't know how coronavirus was being spread, COVID-19. So I went everywhere with gloves, and it was great because I could get my favorite beer and get some gloves that I couldn't get otherwise. Now, what you're saying seems a little confusing to me, because it sounds like you're saying we don't need to be everything to everybody. We just need to serve our customers, which seems like a narrowing and a freeing thing of we get to choose who our customers are and who we serve. But then you're also saying that your next book is about casting a wide net.
Interesting, isn't it? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Could you help me through that a little bit?
So you can think about it. The way I think about it is the wide net is not, you can have a very specific idea about the type of problem that you want to solve. If you want to have a kind of business that scales, it has to be a problem that is pervasive, where for the definition of ideal client that you define, there have to be enough of them to support the kind of scale of business that you want and need.
Okay.
The scale happens in a different way, that you look at the market and where you go to get customers. So I contrast a lot what I call the empire model of business, which is all, I'm building an empire and I want to crush everything. And I am the center of the universe and I am the only expert and I want to attract everybody to me, which in some ways to me can be limiting or expensive to just like try to bring everybody to you. I recommend that you can go to watering holes, which are places in person and online, where somebody else has already done the loving work of assembling a group of people together and assembling with those people who are also your ecosystem partners in solving the same problem for your clients. Then these can be partners that can expose you to many other people. So I know within my world, a lot of my marketing partners, I do a lot of work with GoDaddy, who, as you know, has 18 million small business customers. They love small business owners, so do I, but I'll provide webinars to them or content where I can be helping their small business owners to grow, which is also what they want. But along the path of doing that, then I also, through their promoting my work to their audience, get exposed to all these people who never would have known me. I'm connected with ASU, Arizona State University. They're building a big downtown campus, and we're doing a whole project of engagement there where there's all these educational institutions across the country that are involved in entrepreneurial ecosystem development. So it goes from not just work that is concrete work to do with ASU, but so many different universities across the country who are doing that work. There's foundations like the Kauffman Foundation that produces 1 million cups, and doing work with them, right? We host 1 million cups at our space. You can see right away, as I start to connect in with them, provide support and guidance, they have hundreds of chapters across the country. So you can begin to see when you think in watering holes that often if we're just in that empire mode of, I just need to gather everybody to me and I like pour the money in the top of my funnel for the Facebook ads, which is a big important part of business. I'm not saying we don't have to do that also. But really, when you think strategically about other people who are also concerned about solving the problem of your ideal customers, there are many, many, sometimes millions of potential customers. And you just need to connect to those nodes in those watering holes that give you all kinds of connection and access.
So you help people figure out who their customers are, and and part of that process allows for, there has to be enough to be able to support you and the lifestyle or the work or the company or your employees. And then it's connecting to them with a wider net.
That's right. Because
that is really cool.
Yeah. I mean, not everybody wants to have a huge scaled business. So maybe you have a bespoke furniture making business and you want to serve 30 customers a year, if that, and you want to make highly intricate bedroom furniture or something. The process that you use to get those 30 customers would be very different than if you and I founded a SaaS company and we want to grow it to have millions of users. It's just, it's a totally different world. So choosing why you want to be in business and then what you want to create, the potential scope and scale. But for people who do want to scale, then that is one of the criteria. There has to be, my old sales mentor, Skip Miller, used to say, there has to be, make sure there's water in the pool before you jump.
I think too many people don't.
Yes.
My first book, my first audio program or info product was an audio CD that didn't sell well. And my second book was a book that nobody wanted, a book on goal setting that I actually repurposed and used in Surprising Gift of Doubt. But it was the Zig Ziglar thing of, nobody wants a drill, they want a hole. And so I was selling, you want goals. No, we don't. They want the goal accomplishment. And I didn't have the at that point, the acumen to be able to say 15, 18 years ago, here's how you accomplish that thing you want to accomplish. Here, try this, which is great.
It's how we learn. And, I often say, having seen so much throughout the years, like I know you have in your own field, everybody, first of all, any successful entrepreneur you ever hear has the traumatic, like, I lost my shirt, they kicked me out, I lost hundreds of $1 million story, right? Like everybody, you almost have to have some big failure in order to say you're a legit entrepreneur. But the other thing is there can be factors that are completely outside of our control that could make us look like a genius or a fool, depending upon those factors, right? So somebody who suddenly had the insight to Zoom, I love Zoom, like I use them all the time. But like the fact that they have built a company right to a point before we had this global pandemic where literally everybody needed their service. Historically, they could say, well, yes, of course, we knew that was coming. Really? Like maybe not it could have been the opposite scenario where they would have made some other kind of decision that really failed miserably. And it's the confirmation bias, I think, that we have, that we're always making the right decision. But just being around the entrepreneurial space for so many decades now and seeing so many behind the scenes of so many different situations, I personally think it's really critical to just get in the process of building things and testing. And it's impossible for you to know exactly what works and what doesn't. And so we can look at individual things like, oh, that book didn't do well, but you don't look at that connected piece like you have now drawn with this current book, where unless you did that, it wouldn't have oriented you firmly toward really what was going to be helpful for people in this new book. And it's essential. If you hadn't done that at all, you probably would not arrive where it is that you are here. It's just, it's part of the process. We need to have a lot more stops and starts than we like.
Absolutely. I am a firm, well, part of my orientation is ready, fire, aim. Like I get an idea, do something, and then, oh, okay, that didn't quite land where I expected it to. What if I do this over here? So that's, I'm so glad to know that that is a normal part of this whole process, because I'm kind of liking the process.
People only show the highlight reels, right? So we just show that.
That's
and
true.
Then I had a successful business, and then I got a $500 million of investment. It's not common that we show. Right.
It's not common that we show. I cut you off. Sorry about that.
No, I was just going to say it's not. We rarely tell the whole story, and for good reason.
Yeah.
I don't think that we have to be always sharing every part of the backstory, but I think it would be really helpful for people if they do see, and I know this a lot in working with people on the marketing side. I never want to scare people when I first start talking about what it means to build an audience. But for me, coming online like in 2005, as I did with my blog, Escape from Cubicle Nation, it was really joyful. I do love connecting with people, but I mean, it was years and years and years and years of connecting with people and having small conversations and helping out somebody there and, getting helped here in order to build a really strong network. And I find a lot of folks and, authors we know in this space where they might get, good advice from a publisher of like, you have to build your platform, you have to build your audience now. And people have this feeling like it's this sprint that I have to just immediately get the numbers up. And there's a part of it that it is the human journey, and it really does involve that nurturing and seeding and caring. And it just takes some time. There are very strategic ways you can do it, but it's just not something I found that you can, just burst on the scene. I mean, you can buy your way into having a whole bunch of, numbers of followers or something that looks good, but it's not actually engagement with real humans that are excited about connecting with you. And that's personally what I care about.
And so I do too. Yeah. I'm all about being an 18-year overnight success. That's okay. Because there's a lot more resilience and reps that are built in that I know that, there's a lot more confidence in having made small wins as we go in iterations and stuff. So,
yeah.
Pam, I could talk to you forever. Thank you so much for celebrating this launch day with me. I appreciate it. Everybody that's
congratulations.
Thank you. Look, you could go to, if you're on Amazon Live, get Pam's books here, get my book here, and also go to PamelaSlim.com to find a whole wealth of resources. I know that there are parts of this journey and just launching the book that I found incredibly helpful from your blog. I don't know. Do you know how much you give away in your blog?
I hope a lot. I love
you do.
It's
a ton. Helpful. Yeah. It was sort of like, I really want to work with you. And right now, wow, that's exactly what I needed to have. So thank you so much for making it really searchable and easy to glean information. And thanks for celebrating today.
Thank you.